Honourable Member for KIANG East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make my interventions regarding this important national document that is right before us. Various speakers in their interventions express genuine concerns about issues that affect the lives, livelihoods, and the welfare of Gambians, especially the poor rural folks. Madam Speaker, there are certain things happening here that is consuming our nation, that is destroying our nation. And Honorable Member for Foni Bondali expressed concerns over attitudinal change. I agree entirely with her. You see, dishonesty, selfishness, and insincerity, all driven by greed, is what is destroying this nation. Right from the beginning of preparing this budget, ministers or ministries and departments are sent a budget circular to start preparing their budget. That is where the dishonesty begins. As you prepare your ministerial or departmental budget, you are thinking about ways of siphoning off monies through various dubious budget lines so that you can enjoy. That's the problem. Honorable Minister, I am saying this because this is a very complicated document. A great deal of information is buried in figures here. That makes it very technical and not for the consumption of every ordinary person, even the National Assembly members here. Now, this is why we spent 4 days in Tendaba with experts or resource persons to help us make sense out of these figures, to help us understand this document. That was the purpose. It's natural. We know that national assemblies in the world do not have all the expertise to understand everything. So it's natural that they outsource expertise from elsewhere. Those very people that we trusted to help us understand this document, if those same people did not want us to understand the document, that is the beginning of problems. Because some of the resource persons felt in Tendaba that National Assembly members should not understand this document. Because certain resource persons were overheard saying that, look, don't tell them everything, because if you do, they are going to hold you by the neck. And in response, the person to whom he is talking said, well, we will let them find things out by themselves. Isn't that dishonesty? This is the problem. They don't want to understand this document. And as National Assembly members, if you can't understand this document, who else will understand it? We are representatives of the people. And Honorable Jata rightly spoke about the fact that people, illiterate people, for whom the budget is meant, do not understand the document. So we are the ones who are supposed to help them understand. But if somebody who's also supposed to help us understand this document are just denying us, depriving us of that opportunity, how do we expect to understand this document? That's the problem. Okay, now having said that, Honorable Speaker, when I looked at the estimates on Roman 2, just the page before page 1, my attention is drawn to one important thing. and that is the combined budget of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology is less than the budget of the Office of the President. This I find it extremely difficult to understand. I cannot understand that. Now, because people, even in the executive, I pay lip service to National Development Plan, National Development Agenda. When people cough or when they sneeze NDP, but that is not reflected in the budget, as if the Office of the President is synonymous with National Development Plan. Education is a very important area. Our livelihood is in agriculture. So if somebody is telling me or showing me that, look, the combined budget of agriculture and education is less than the budget for the Office of the President, I just cannot understand. Now, with regards to the Ministry of Higher Education, of course, it is a non-secret that a lot of our young women and women in the universities, University of the Gambia, Gambia College, GTTI, etc., are not attending classes because they cannot pay fees, they cannot pay tuition. Some could not do their exams because they have tuition areas to pay. Some want to go to college for teacher training, they cannot because they cannot afford the fees. And yet, the Office of the President is budgeted more than the Ministry of Agriculture. So our Ministry of Higher Education, as if the welfare, the education of these young men and women doesn't matter to anybody. That's the problem. Okay, now if we proceed on to page 1, where we have the summary of income and expenditure, there are many issues. For example, a deficit budget. Now, a deficit budget, Gambia is synonymous with deficit budget. It has always been like that, from the First Republic to the Second, and now the same budget deficit, year in, year out. Every time the budget is out, there is a serious deficit. It's like people are just kicking their deficit cans along the way, hoping that somebody else will pick it up. After 50 years, nobody has picked it up. It's indeed time to understand that we need to take this issue up seriously, make practical efforts to solve this problem. Because a deficit budget means that we cannot carry on our development programs. Because if you look at it, the deficit that we have in the budget is being financed, principally here by loans and grants. Is that the way that we are going to continue? That's not possible. So we need to do something about that. Well, without taking much time, because most of the things that I wanted to say have actually been said by other speakers. But before I conclude my intervention, I would like the Honorable Minister for Finance and Trade to help me to provide answers for me with regards to the Office of the President, which is on page 2. I think this is part 2, where details of expenditure or details of establishment, civil servants, special skill allowance, travel allowance, retention allowance, cost of living allowance, clothing allowance, house rent allowance, telephone allowance, no responsibility allowance for the Office of the President. Now, Honorable Minister, why is this unique privilege given to only the Office of the President and not to the classroom teacher in Kanaki or Sakolkuda? Why? Because these people working in the Office of the President are working in a very cozy environment. But people who are suffering does not matter to this project. What's the problem? Why is this unique opportunity offered to those people and not to the teachers in the classrooms in the provinces? All right. Okay. I was also looking at the budget for the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. I have not seen this. Maybe perhaps you will help me understand or find this in the budget. This is school bus services. It was there last year. This I have not seen it. And these school bus services are for children of poor people who cannot afford to take their schools in private cars. Every day, in the morning and in the afternoon, at Gambia High School here, you find children standing here looking for lift to and from school. And this is taking a greater part of their school day. If you leave home, by the time you reach home, if you leave home in Bikawa, for example, coming to school in Banjul, sometimes by the time you arrive in Banjul, it is already break. So you have only a few more lessons to do, and then you start struggling to go back home. It is even worse for those that are coming in the afternoon shift. So what is happening to the school bus service? I haven't seen it here. Is it there? Is it hidden somewhere in the budget? I want to know. There is also the issue of school feeding program. Something is budgeted, I know. It was 90 million was given last year. This year, the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is asking for more. That $90 million that was given for school feeding program last year was enough to cover schools in part of Region 2, that's West Coast Region, and Region 4. It could not be even extended to other areas. We know World Food Program is doing a great job in providing meals to students in schools, but the World Food Program is fading out. It's fading out, actually. They are just phasing out. And the problem is, even if they are not phasing out, is it right for us to entrust the feeding of our children to other people? If you bear children, you must take the responsibility of feeding and educating them. Why is it that in the Gambia, we cannot feed our own children in school? What's the problem? I think that budget needs to be increased. The government or the Gambia needs to brace up to provide meals in the school for all the children, not just for children in Region 1 and Region 2 and Region 4, but for the entire country. You know, if you travel to some areas, children are spending an entire day in school without even money, without even food to eat. In some schools, what a single child is taken to school for lunch is more than my fish money, my kopandawal. I can tell you this, I know. In some schools, a child's daily lunch money is more than the fish money for a lot of families. In the provinces, they are going to school even without a single meal. And we know the implications of that. Because I have seen children who drop out of school because there is no food. And as soon as food supply comes to school, they go to school. When the supply finishes, they withdraw from school. This is happening. So I think the budget needs to look at that very seriously and start feeding our own children instead of depending on third parties to feed our children for us. Okay? And then there are the issues of laboratories and laboratories in upper basic and senior secondary schools. Well, I've not seen any allocation for that. Probably it is somewhere hidden somewhere in the budget. But please, I want the Honorable Minister to locate that section for me where there is a budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for Science Lab, because now everybody is talking about science and technology as drivers of economies. Okay. Honorable Speaker, these are some of the questions that I want answered, and I don't have any further questions actually, so I beg to end my intervention here until tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.